Hi, my name is Joe Jackson. I'm a journalist, author, interviewer and broadcaster. And what you're about to hear is one of the roughly 1,400 interviews I did for publications such as the Irish Times, Sunday Independent, Hot Press Magazine and for RTE Radio 1. How do I know there are 1,400 interviews, roughly? Well, because I recently digitized all the damn tapes myself. But do remember that many of the interviews were done for the print media and recorded on cassette tapes. So some are, let's say, sonically challenged, but I happen to believe that sonic consideration should at times give way to historical significance. And I'm glad to say that at least some powers that be in RTE Radio 1 agreed with me on this and broadcast between the years 2015 and 2018 many of my interviews in a series called The Joe Jackson Tapes Revisited. What follows is a programme that was made for that series but never broadcast due to circumstances beyond my control, which is what we broadcasters say when we don't want to start a war or get sued. But the pulling of this show did particularly upset me because it was my personal tribute to Sean Hughes. I recorded it not long after he died and it was to be broadcast the Christmas of the same year. But now it's available as a podcast. And by the way, if you want to read the article that I wrote out of this meeting with Sean, check joejacksoninterviewer.com. Hi, welcome to the Joe Jackson Tapes Revisited. And tonight's show is one I wish I didn't have to make in these circumstances, simply because I was truly saddened on October the 16th, 2017, when I heard about the death of Sean Hughes at the age of only 51 from, it was later reported, a heart attack. So you can imagine how eerie it then felt when I flicked into my cassette recorder a tape of an interview we did coming up to Christmas 1993, and the first thing I heard was Sean talking about a poem he was writing about dying of a heart attack. This, to me, was cosmic synchronicity to a laughably absurd degree. And that reminds me, after I flew to London to meet the man, I was told to proceed to St. Mary Le Bow Church. It was Christmas time, so I rather surrealistically began to wonder what I'd find. A new messiah, maybe? Cool, I'd get the first interview. Or maybe Sean had heard that staff in Dublin Shelburne Hotel jokingly described the alcove in which I did many interviews as Joe's confession box, and he wanted to do ours in a real one. The truth was funnier. The church was a comedy venue at lunchtime, and he and a certain Vicar Vic were standing in opposing pulpits taking part in a joke your way to heaven or hell duel. And no, we didn't do the interview in a confession box, at least not a real one. It took place a half hour later in the offices of Sean's London representative. Hughes at that point was presenting on TV the Channel 4 series Sean's Show. He'd also recently published Sean's book, an anthology of his journalism, short stories and poems. And frankly, I found its tragicomic tone so compelling, I took from the book many of my cues for this interview. And I soon discovered that Sean, born to Irish parents in London, but who moved to Ireland when he was 6 and spent most of his childhood in Firhouse, County Dublin, was a kind of Pagliacci. I titled my hot press article, The Fears of a Clown. I still would. But let me add this in hindsight. One of the defining features of Sean's art was that he neutralised taboo subjects by addressing them directly and with great humour. But many people in 1993 found offensive what he had to say and even the language Sean used. The same, no doubt, will apply to this broadcast. It is not for the faint of heart or Puritans, but most definitely captures Sean Hughes, soul-searching and uncensored.
A light-hearted question to begin with. The Cure, the soundtrack to your life. So you're half in love with suicide and death?
It's not so much that, it's just, I think, I don't actually pay that much attention to Robert Smith's lyrics.
Do you not?
I must say.
Okay.
Because I know he hasn't written a lyric for about 10 years. They're all from, because he's happily married as such for a long time. But I think the music, it really works to me on that level. Like, it's very strange.
Like what? Dark-hearted and kind of...
Yeah, it's just something about them. And there's some, like, I love when there's a beautiful love song like Just Like Heaven is still one of my favourite songs of all time. Show me how you do that trick, the one that makes you laugh, she said. And that's... like, we have them on the show as well, the very last episode. Robert Smith plays my mother.
But is that the kind of stuff you would have hooked into? I mean, there's a lot of darkness in your book, whether it's anger, whether it's kind of angst, or are we seeing too much of your TV character rather than revealing something about yourself?
Well, there's none of the TV character really in the book. It's I find, you know, when you say is it angst, is it anger, if I could actually tell you that, the book wouldn't exist.
Okay.
Because I find that a lot of the time there's this battle in my head of you know, I want to live on my own, I don't want to be lonely.
Want to live on your own?
Yeah,
okay.
I need that space. It's actually, I've just written a new poem and it's not together yet, but and it's about the fact that you're living on your own, and if I have a heart attack,
all right,
you know, I said 2 weeks later my body will be the same colour as my eyes, you know, the eyes that deceived many a lady, and also one ghostly soul.
Yeah, but I just asked you, I mean, are you half in love with easeful death? I mean, that's Keats and all that kind of dark romanticism, and there you tell me you're writing a poem about if you die.
Yeah, but
why that fascination if it's there, or why even that theme at this moment?
I think that would be being frightened rather than, you know, like that, because I don't see much romance in death.
Do you not?
No.
Right.
You know, in this...
No romance in suicide, that old Byronic idea of, you know, sacrifice everything, the final great gesture is suicide.
There are times, and I think it's with everyone, where you just think, I can't be arsed with this world, because we seem to be on a different wavelength.
Right.
But you always push on because you think something's going to happen. You know, I think it would be too much of a cop-out to kill yourself.
To kill yourself? Did you get close to it?
No, but I've had really gloomy depressions, and they come on very quickly. You know, I remember even during the making of Sean's show, I was in a cab, and see, this is where I struggle in life, and it's where other people can't understand. I was just coming back from a rehearsal. It was about 3:30, 4 in a cab, and the strange thing about, and it's probably the same with Dublin now, but you know, you get the cab in the centre of town and people are bright and bit show busy.
You go out around.
And as you go, people get poorer and poorer and uglier and uglier. And we got up to Hornsley Lane, and this Greek guy came out of a betting shop, looked at this thing, and I just went, his wife's going to get beaten up tonight, you know, he's going to be in such a foul mood. And then that from that tiny little gesture, I was 2 minutes later, I was down like this in the cab trying to keep it together, like, you know, and just saying, fuck's sake, Sean, hold on to it, like, you know, you can't let these things affect you.
But why is it treated that easily? You can't be that open to the world and survive. You know what I mean? I
think it's, you know, obviously when you're tired and at a low ebb, they can come at you, like, you know.
Okay. So how often do those kind of bouts hit you and last? Like, is it an hour? Is it weeks?
No, it's because, like, I used to suffer from anxiety years ago, and that's the beginning of an anxiety attack. That's
right, okay.
Because at the first start there, you go, oh my God, it's going back into that, and you go, keep it together, and then you busy yourself for 2 hours with physical exercise. It's like when you're extremely hungover and you regret being alive. It's that kind of thing.
Right. The anxiety attacks, do they involve medication? I have a friend who suffers from the same thing, and it can strike her. We're in a social gathering, and she just tips me on the shoulder and says, I have 1 second to get out of this room.
Yeah, I used to be like that. I'm not anymore. I used to, that's the beta blockers that I mentioned in the church. I used to take them. And
what are they? I'm sorry, excuse my ignorance on that one.
They were a thing that slow the heart.
How do you spell them?
BETA blockers.
Oh, right, okay, so they slow the heart, so you don't...
so they're not a tranquilizer, but they slow the heart down.
Right.
So you'd never actually get off on it.
Okay.
But I used them for a couple of years.
And what was the anxiety attacks rooted in? I mean, did anybody even bother to analyse it? Did you analyse it, or was it...
Well, it came from me from very straightforward. When I was 19, I had a terrible acid trip.
All right.
And I got over that. It was a terrible one. And the next morning it was,
Okay.
But then about 2 weeks later in a cafe, having a cup of coffee.
Flashback.
No, well, you're told all about the flashbacks. You might get flashbacks, which is bullshit for a start. Right. But, you know, I was very naive about the whole thing, and I took a sip of coffee, and it was cappuccino, and I got a rush from the coffee, and I thought, oh my God, I'm having a flashback. And I had a major one, and then for that part of my life, that was the most desperate I've ever been, because I thought, right, that's it. You know, this is the rest of my life. I want to hide under my bed.
All right.
And that's when I decided to move over to London. Like, I was like that, moving over to London.
And before that, you hadn't been bothered by it? Well, obviously we all have temporary anxieties, but it hadn't been a major factor.
No, because it's very much where, in a sense, it was a trauma. And a trauma either builds your character up or destroys you. And mine destroyed at the start, and then you rebuilt. And, like, I'm, in a sense, very glad it happened now.
Right.
But I'm over the anxiety now. But things like I never get depressed about things like reviews or
Right.
what people say to me like that. It's like little incidents that I see out in the street.
What about love? What about relationships with women? Though you see, maybe you cause depression too, if I'm to believe a lot of what I'm reading in the poems, as opposed to just feel it.
Well, again, like if I really spent a lot of time thinking about relationships, then I'd be depressed all the time.
Okay.
But and that's why I think I'm always trying to jump onto the next. There's someone new out there.
The next relationship.
Yeah, because this one hasn't really worked out.
Is that infantile romanticism though?
Yeah, very much so. No,
No, but I mean, I know.
No.
Jesus, I suffer from the same thing. If it's called suffering, eternally reaching for the better relationship, the better woman, whatever.
Yeah, and it's because I was brought up as a romantic, like, and when everyone else was going out, playing at being couples, I refused to do it because I knew it was a game.
Right.
And I used to sit at home, and say, well, no, I'm going to meet the perfect person, and that's the only thing that keeps me alive.
Could also kill you in the long run though, because you may get to an age or a stage where you realise this ideal doesn't exist and you have to settle for less than perfection.
Well, I'm getting to that stage already.
Right.
But then you start thinking, well, okay, what else is there in life?
Right.
And then you start, it's the thing that's like, if you think about these things too much, you will top yourself.
Sure.
And you have to think about other things. And that's why, like, I have probably got out of my head too much over the last couple of years. And I've just actually made a decision now to I'm not doing any more drugs.
Since when? Like this morning?
No, about a week ago.
Right. Like a real clean slate?
Yeah. No. Well, I never did that many anyway, but I have been known to take a little bit of nose powder.
Well, you have that in the last poem, and I was wondering, was that part to shake off the kind of being the kiddie's favourite and the ideal image for parents? You're not the perfect man, and
Very
this
much
is
so,
what I do.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you have to, because there's nothing like, I could never lead a life that was such a pretense, and then shaking hands with parents and going, hey, yeah, the kid's great. I have to go.
Thinking you're the ideal role model.
Yeah, hey, I will go, hey, the kid's great, but I'm going into the toilet now to kind of get a little high, if you don't mind.
Right. How much of that shit did you stuff up your nose then?
Never a major lot. It was very much social. Never bought any of it.
Okay.
It was very much like a couple of people I'm with were always doing it,
But how big a part of it is it in the business you do? Like people needing either amphetamines or something like that to just, like as in jazz, as in Lenny, as in blues, as in all that, to get the kick to project your body and soul out there into the audience?
Well, I never use it for...
At that point, we were interrupted by a woman bringing Sean his lunch, a cheese and tomato sandwich. It was wrapped in cellophane, hence the upcoming sound effects, which are a pain in the ear, but what Sean says is too important to cut. And no, I wasn't fed. Those damn celebs.
All right, so just the element of, like, people using it, or you using it in terms of the act?
No, never.
For confidence, whatever.
No, it's actually, that's the very last thing I use it for.
Right. But is it a pattern? Is it something that is dominant in the business among your
performance level? I think it is recreational, but I still like it's also for people who aren't really who haven't got much else going in their life, because it's a group of people who are hanging out together and doing it.
Right.
I know for a couple of friends it's a way of life, which is a bit frightening.
Okay.
And I know they do it just to keep going on a day-to-day basis, but no, I never need anything for performance, because I'm actually
hyper enough.
Yeah, because I don't do as much anymore, because even with live stuff, like where I was used to doing like 5 nights a week, and now it's just like major tours, and I love it. I can't wait to, be on stage. But also nothing excites me anymore. Nothing excites you? Not even kind of this reaching bigger audiences and the potential for fame growing and all that? No. See, that to me, you pointed out to me the essence of the futility of fame when you describe, and I've talked to so many people about it, that telling moment where you're coming home from the TV show and you see something out there that makes you see, well, so what, I've just done fucking rehearsal for it, it'll go out over the air, but I'm seeing pain there, I'm feeling pain here, and all that is irrelevant. I mean, is that how you feel about it overall? Yeah, the first series, it was very much, because it was my first series, and I was kind of going, I couldn't understand if people didn't like it. Right. I'm going, what do you mean people don't like it? I've put 2 years in my life, what do you mean? And like, it's kind of, and now I just go, look, it's just a TV show.
Right.
If you like it, that's brilliant. I'll put a lot of effort into it, but if you don't,
Right.
there's no problem. And I don't.
But what about the hollow feeling at the end of it? Because there are so many people who'll be reading this, hot press readers, who, whether it's doing what you're doing, being in a rock band, they think this is going to be the panacea, the kind of prayer to answer every human need.
Well, it can do.
And that dream is still sold.
You can do if you play the game.
Right.
Where most people, like I'm lucky in that sense of I really enjoy what I do. I love sitting down and writing.
Right.
And I love performing. Like, I only wish I had a different personality, because like money amounts up, and I've turned down ads and all that, and I could make a lot more money, and I could sell T-shirts a lot more expensive. But if I knew what to do with the money, because
Right.
I'm basically a cheese and tomato type person.
Right,
Like, it's not like let's go to the fanciest restaurant, let's buy some designer clothes. I've no interest, and I wish I did. I wish I was at the moment planning to buy a big house with a swimming pool and jacuzzi and all that.
Why, incidentally, did you make the decision to go totally clean on using anything, even recreationally? Anything happen? Another experience?
No, I think I'm getting to the stage where 28, I'm not as young as I used to be. In fact, I'm not really young anymore. Compared to, I used to think I was young.
Right.
And all of a sudden you're 28, you're not really young anymore. You're young in the big scale of things. And I just thought, I don't enjoy it. I'm even cutting down on drinking and smoking as well. So, like,
Will this last, though, or is this something that happens every 4 months, where you say, I'm going to clean out my body, like a lot of people do, and then they go bananas again after Christmas or something? Before Christmas, you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
The process of denial, which then is fun. It's all very Catholic.
But that's why I won't
go through Lent,
But that's why I won't say I'm giving up booze, because
all right.
even though I want to. But yeah, because it's not even that much of a sacrifice, because I didn't do that much drugs, but I've decided no. It's just I don't like that way of life.
Did you tell me you're giving up regular smoking?
I'm going to cut down.
Going to cut down.
Yeah.
Would you like to give it up? I mean, that could be seen as a bad influence on some of your younger
I
fans.
don't want to give it up.
You don't want to give it up?
I really like smoking.
All right.
But I'm smoking 40 a day, and that's not right.
You are smoking 40 a day?
Yeah.
What are you trying to do to yourself?
I know. Like, But that's the only thing as well, which was really weird, with this health farm at the weekend. I worked out for an hour in the gym. And it was actually, I got a new joke out as well, because my friend said to me, if you saw your lungs, you'd give up smoking. And I said, well, it's a bit fucking late then, wouldn't it? If I'm having my lungs in my hand, I've got 2 seconds to live. Light me a fag, please. Yeah. So that'll be in the Irish States. But, and it's that kind of thing of... and I wasn't out of breath in the gym, and I worked out for an hour, and I thought, we'll be really stiff tomorrow morning. Right. And I wasn't.
All right.
So maybe I'm not as unhealthy as I was, so should we do a line of coke?
Yeah. So maybe cigarettes are good for you. But 40s, if they're like, what, 20 too many? It'd be good if you could cut it down to 20.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Mm.
I then asked Sean Hughes if, although he'd said he was a cheese and tomato person, he'd made tons of dough.
Yeah, for me I have, yeah.
Yeah. Beats the employment assistance schemes, or whatever they're called over here.
Enterprise allowance.
Enterprise allowance scheme, 40 quid a week. Yeah.
But I lived on that, I survived on that, that was great as well,
Do you still live in the same place that you used to live in then, or have you moved?
No, and I've just bought a house as well.
Have you bought a house?
Yeah. Which is, again...
Snazzy?
No, just North London, it's kind of a 3-bedroom house, which is, great. I'll have a lot more privacy.
Right.
And that's what I want it for. Like, I buy the occasional little bit of art as well.
Right, like what?
Very,
Like who?
Oh, no one. Like, I'm not in that league. But, I bought this thing called Nile Crouching, which is a little sculpture of a boy.
Right.
Which was probably quite expensive. It was about $1,000 or something.
All right.
And sometimes I feel very guilty, that there are holes for it and I've spent. But, come on, I'm doing my bit.
Yeah. £1,000 on a piece of art. This, I read 2 of your poems, Shaking Cream and Dad's Version. They give a rather sad view of a specific Christmas, or is that a more general view of home life at that point?
Well, it's a real incident, but it did, I felt... And actually, I was actually trying to make life feel a bit better there by giving my daddy's point of view, when in actual fact,
What, at the time you wouldn't have seen that at all?
Well, yeah, it was like... You can imagine how scummy it was, I went in to play my record, and I was boom trying to shaking away, and it goes over, and he comes in and smashes me present. But I do remember one birthday as well, where he locked the stereo in the wardrobe because I did something, not out of malice, I did something. Okay. But there's evil there, to do that.
Evil in your father.
Mm.
But what was that? I mean, was it that kind of relationship you both had? It sounds very Irish.
Yeah, like, you know, I feel sorry for him in a lot of ways, like, and he's mellowed a lot now.
Okay.
But, you know, I'm Scorpio. I'm not a big star person, but we don't forget things, like, you know.
Right.
I remember stupid little incidents. Because, you know, I always remember we were on the holidays in Cork at Easter time, and someone had bought myself and my brother Easter eggs, and my dad came up with the Easter eggs, and we had two cousins there, Tommy and Christy, and he gave them to them.
Right.
And I just knew, you know, and that was him being, hey, I'm your uncle.
And you knew he'd bought them for you?
Oh, we knew that someone had bought them for us.
Oh, someone else had bought them for
like,
you?
and he was supposed to give them to us. Cause,
Oh, wow.
you know, that way.
Nice
But,
one.
and you can see what he was doing as well. He was just saying, you know, and just things like that annoy me. And then, of course, the reason why there's this slight evil there, and it kind of worries me, is because that thing that we talked about in the first series is fighting and turning into your own father, you know?
All right. Right. Yeah, but you talked about it on a broader level too, even there in the church, about kind of not wanting to recognise your own potential for evil, for killing, for murder. I mean, they're all the parts of our own nature, particularly in Catholicism. We're told to celebrate the light, celebrate Jesus, and by God, if there's anything that resembles the other chap, deny it.
I know.
So, I mean, but is it a healthy relationship with your father now? I mean, is that tension something of whatever that was 15 years ago?
Yeah, there's no tension there, but, you know, I have that relationship with my parents, which where there's a love there, but there's no understanding whatsoever. More love from my mother. Like, my dad is, yeah, all right, yeah, you know, I wish him no harm. I love him to a varying degree. But
did you have to leave the country to get away from them?
Well, to get away from that whole thing.
Because you talked about that in the church too, the
whole fur
sad
house.
repetitiveness of that style of, well, it's my own life, it's my own background. And it is incredibly kind of soul destroying to watch it and feel you're going to follow the same pattern. So did you feel you had to break away fully to make sure that didn't happen?
Yeah, definitely. And I don't like going back there because, you know,
Right.
at Christmas now, I'll have to go to my local pub and everyone's patting me on the back and I'm just...
Yeah, well, you write about that in My Hometown. Is that autobiographically true?
Yeah.
That kind of distance, that kind of,
Well,
I'll put up with it for 10 minutes or I'll play the game, but then please let me walk out alone or go off.
yeah, because my best friend, you know, who I thought we'd be friends for life, and we just, you know...
Why though?
Because, you know, it's like a relationship, you know, a sexual relationship that's gone sour, where I don't want to talk to him now because it can't be as good as it was,
Right.
and we've got different interests,
Right.
of course,
Right.
and he's still doing the same shit, which we always talk about, which we wouldn't, which I talk about in that poem, and he's doing it, and I just say, right, that's it, leave me out of it.
Right.
I'm not living that life.
Do you have any friends that take the place of him? I mean, do you have those intimate friends here now?
I do, but like,
Right.
you know, again, a new poem, and it's because do you live on your own or are you?
I do, yeah.
But you'll relate to this because, you know, when you have friends, and they're usually at this stage in relationships,
Sure.
and all you are to them is a distraction from their life. And, you know, there's a love there between me and various people. Now, it's a close bunch, but I'm a distraction because I know it's great. I'll go out with Sean and I'll do the things I don't normally do, but then I go back with my girlfriend.
Right.
And I see, you know, just buffers, really.
Right, right. So you feel disconnected from a lot of this stuff because of the way things have gone?
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
My younger brother I'm really close to, and he's my lifeline to kind of that life.
At home?
To everything, really.
Right. You know the poem about the brothers, then, that's not autobiographical because your mum's still alive.
That's about me,
Right.
me dad, me granny died.
Oh, okay.
So my dad and all his brothers.
When was that?
Must have been about 10 years ago.
So when did you recall that or write that?
About 2 years ago.
Yeah. Why had it such a vivid kind of impression? I mean,
Because it was, you know, seeing a dead body. And also
Right.
looking at my dad and he wouldn't cry.
Right.
And, you know, all the brothers and a couple of them would cry a little bit, but none of them would cry. And I just thought it was such a tainted image and it always stayed with me.
That was not to you a human response.
Well, I just, you know, I was there and I was going, cry,
Yeah.
you know, because I was
Yeah.
crying just from seeing this dead body. And
Right.
as I say in the poem, thinking about my mum dying and seeing what I think,
Right.
and that was
Right.
their mother, you know.
Right, right. Is your mother very... You refer to your mother of maybe I haven't got the line right, but crying for her every unhappy waking moment. Is that a truthful reflection of her life?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I think most working class people have that life. and that's why religion is important to them.
As compensation.
Yeah, because there's people who still think Earth is it's hell. Earth is hell on earth, and heaven.
All right.
Heaven is what we put up with. And the thing is, there's going to be misery anyway, so you might as well give them that something to help them get over that, because my mother just buried her brother over here last week, so I went to another funeral. And, the priest came up to me afterwards, and I just said, look, I don't believe any of this shit, I don't want to talk to you, because he was just come away for a week on retreat with me. But, yeah, lovely.
Who was?
The priest. Because I was saying I like Buddhism philosophy, but at the same time I'm not going to go down and pray to a big fat bloke either. I just like the fact that they try not to harm anything and they believe in peace and all that.
Right.
Because this guy was telling me, this priest was saying, I left the church as well, and then I was watching a horror film one night and I believed again. And nice one. See.
So how do your parents feel about you writing those poems and publishing them and revealing their sorry state of affairs in that way?
Well, a lot of people, like you're unlikely to bump into me folks, in that sense, and any of their friends who would pick up the book will not pick up on anything like that,
Right.
And they try not to think about it too much.
But they've obviously read it and you sent it to them, and have they not got back to you? Your dad will not?
No, it's I don't want to hear any comments about my work from my dad because he's just thick as shite, And,
but is he really? It doesn't necessarily follow that working class fathers wouldn't read poetry or anything.
Oh, no, not at all. But I just know from any time he's done any of my work, he doesn't understand it. But my younger brother's Martin, and my dad was saying to him, because he snuck a look at the book. I didn't give it to him. Because Martin had the kind of the first copy, and he went. My dad said, "I was fucked in the head," and then the other thing was, and the very fact that the book's all about moments and they're supposed to contradict each other.
Yeah.
And he says, he tends to contradict himself here, one after the other, and that's kind of common. But I still haven't forgiven. Oh, not forgiven my dad, but I never let him forget because he came up to me after a live gig once, and he went, "You've got a great rapport with that audience." So I always bring that up. But,
and your mother? What does she think?
Look, don't be going on about God, come on.
Oh, does she? Yeah. Catholic response?
Yeah.
I'll just give her. Yeah, okay.
After Sean answered the phone, and by the way, while he was answering the phone, I secretly scraped up a few crumbs from his sandwich. I'm kidding. But then we returned to the subject of the family.
So after that kind of experience, do you have any faith in the family concept, the whole kind of family unit, or was it all just
I think it works for some people, but not as an ongoing thing. I don't intend to bring any kids into the world.
Really? Do you really? Because you write about that and you've talked about that, showed people trying to give meaning to their lives, meaningless lives by having children. Is that really your view of it?
I think to a certain degree, that's a bit too black and white to say, this is the gospel.
Well,
but the thing about my dad as well, is that he read the In Dublin piece recently where I just said I used to shoplift from Easton's.
Oh yeah.
And he went, "Look, son, you shouldn't be talking about that. That's a real bad reflection on us because it was you were young and we were there, and that's what he was concerned about." And I go, "Get a life."
Oh right. If that's the only thing that was revealing or important,
because But as if shoplifting was a major crime,
sure.
What it is.
Yeah, what it is, yeah. No, I thought it was great fun, really subversive little stuff. But the thing about children, is your personal view. In terms of if you're in love with a woman now and she wants children, you say no way.
Yeah.
You really will.
Yeah. Because it is a thing of let's have a kid, and kids are brilliant, and I can understand why people have them, but it is that Have you never loved somebody that deeply, or she loved you in return, that you both felt it would be right? But how do you express love through having a kid? I don't understand.
A lot of women will define it that way: that the creation of a life out of our love, out of our two bodies, out of the union of our relationship, is something that's the natural consequence of this.
I find that bizarre.
Do you though? But you believe that that's what a lot of people believe. A lot of women, and I'm not being sexist at all, but women.
Oh, please do then.
No, but women do. That response has been put to me, that the ultimate kind of sign of the love between a man and a woman would be to create a child together.
Yeah.
Now, you just won't buy that one if any woman tries
for a start, I don't believe sex is the best way of expressing love either.
All right.
I just wrote an article for Elle magazine, and I said modern sex is precipice for the generation too frightened to go to the gym on their own.
You must read Sartre.
But you know, it's kind of
But do you believe that? Come on.
yeah. I think sex is a very nice physical thing. Like, you know, I've made love once in my life, and I think I was kidding myself. And that's what I mean. Like, you know, I can't get into bed with someone and say, "I love you so much." Right, I'm gonna stick my dick,
Right.
you know, in your vagina. And I think because that's how I want to express my love for you.
Okay.
You know, I
But you
find
did
that
once.
Yeah, because I was madly in love with this person, and just once where I went off somewhere and it was a
Okay.
different plane.
All right. Is that fair to the women or do they always accept?
I'd never lie. I'll never be saying to
Alright.
someone like we're making love now.
Yeah.
And like, you know, at the same time, you know, if I was saying to someone I do love you, and I said, but let's have sex, you know, and it is
They're
like,
not
you know,
necessarily.
I only wish I could say different, and that's why, you know,
Right.
I don't really like having sex, but I do like having sex, and I don't like having sex, and you know, sometimes it's good fun to do, and sometimes I think no because it means too much.
Yeah, but you write a lot about that in the book, and your post-guilt scenario, your post-sex scenarios of the guilt and the self-repulsion and all that stuff.
That story called Hell is Other People. And I'm very proud of that story because, you know, this guy actually is in bed with this woman and then he's thinking of all these people he saw earlier on in the day.
Yeah.
And then she comes into his image and it destroys him because
Sure.
he's imagining sleeping with the person he's actually sleeping with. And then there's a lovely twist at the end of that story as well.
She wants.
And like, I wanted people to read that. People going, like, not to feel sorry for this Kenton guy, but
Right.
it's all from his point of view. And not for one moment do we think of the woman,
Sure,
like, you know, what
sure.
she's going through. And what I was trying to say there is there's another story to be told, you know. And I haven't seen
yeah.
that. I'm sure it's been done before, but I
Right.
haven't seen it. And I just
Are you Kenton?
no, not at all.
You're not at all.
No,
But sometimes you must. I mean, if you see a woman in a bar, like he sees a woman in a bar earlier.
no, not
Really not?
really. Like, there's times where you see someone, you go, oh, I'd love to shag her, but you know, you never kind of, you know, in that peep show. That's kind of that's basically like that. Kenton would be based on about 4 people, and
Okay.
I'd be one of them.
Sure.
That's for sure, like,
sure,
you know.
Sure. But you're really stripping down the so-called act of loving to what you see it as press-ups for whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, in a lot of the writings in the book, it is kind of reduced to that.
Yeah, because you know, I'm looking for the spiritual love really rather than the physical one.
But
I think the unit of spirit.
really though.
Yeah.
See, I think this is a big, I don't know whether this is one of the unspoken, not hang-ups, but aspirations of people who are Catholics. You have to, you translate your need for spiritual life into something else. Now, some can get it back in music, some can get it back through poetry, others look for that in sex, and I think a lot of the Catholics, ex-Catholics I've talked to who are artists, do tend to associate some kind of spiritual longing with, you know, they want more than just the orgasm and go.
Yeah.
It's like, what? There must be something more to this.
But that's what I'm saying. I go the complete opposite way, where I think you'll never get it via sex.
All right.
So I'm looking for the spirituality of, you know, in a sense that Buddhist thing of
Right.
being on your own and getting your own nirvana. That sense, like, you
All
know.
right.
And,
You don't think you can get it through sex?
No, I can't. Hopefully other people can.
Do you hope to?
Not now. It's way. I've
You
had
could-
too much experience to kind of go back and all that.
Really?
It's like, you know, I remember a thought I had years ago, which I haven't had for a long time, but about where sometimes it'd be great to be so ignorant,
All right.
you know, and
So you
actually,
wouldn't think of these things.
you know, like that numb thing the dentists give you. If you could just put one of those in your brain, and you forgot all knowledge, and you could fucking believe in God,
All right.
and
Right.
you thought, like, you know, sex was making love, and the thing was to do was to have babies, and Birds of a Feather was a really funny program, and all that. You know, I sometimes think I might go for that because it seems like a lot less pain.
But you're not going to go for it. It's not going to happen, is it?
No, because that's the thing. Like, you know, it's all very well we say we get depressed from my folks and all that, the lifestyle they lead, but because they're kept ran off the feet all the time, they don't think about it.
Sure.
And if they did, like, there'd just be a Jim Jones suicide pact all over the suburbia.
Yeah, yeah. How do you maintain your image as if you're a sex symbol to certain women when you write about because I mean if these women are longing to bed you or have gone to bed with you and they really read what you're writing in that book. Well, if I was a woman, you'd hardly be my ideal of romantic. Do you know what I mean? There's too much going on there. I mean, how do you keep it up? As in the image, a sex symbol.
Well, you know, it's not really me keeping it up. Like that'll be the media picking up on it. on the
an
same
aspect.
Yeah, but at the same time, I still will on occasion just shag people, like, because as you know yourself, when you write poetry, like you're expressing a moment, and that doesn't mean you're going to live out that moment for the rest of your life. And I let go every so often.
With like you had fans who would queue up even in a church to talk to you afterwards.
Even in a church.
Even in a church, I love the irony. But I mean, is that a factor or is that not a factor?
Of what?
Of fans who want to sleep with you, who write to you and long for you that way, or want to love you or marry you or whatever.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think they want to sleep with me though.
What do they want to do?
I don't know.
Straighten you out.
Yeah, probably. Comb my hair. Just keep them going, hey, that's a lot nicer.
But really, come on, you must get some letters along those lines or approaches.
Honestly, you don't.
Do you not?
Because we have an information centre and they go through someone else. There's a word when I got recently from this woman who obviously is crazy about me. She was telling me how she's met someone else now and how she thinks of me when she's sleeping with her husband. Right. And how she's found someone else now and said it's good to give you a rest. But it's odd reading that kind of
stuff. But are you involved in a steady relationship?
Mm.
You're not. So when you say my girlfriend, you mean a girlfriend? When you said earlier, as part of an answer, I go home with my girlfriend.
Yeah, no, that would be. I consider it like friends, girlfriends, boyfriends type thing. Right. Like yeah.
You have.
I haven't. I couldn't.
You couldn't. You just don't believe in relationships.
No,
what's the longest love relationship you ever had, or sex relationship?
Well, there'd be ongoing things, where what tends to happen is
which don't involve monogamy, because you write about that in poems too, about how someone knew that they couldn't be faithful. So
yeah, I know. It's like what tends to happen with me is I fall in love really easy. And like I'm a real bastard for that, because I do mean every word I say.
Right.
And now when I say to people, if I meet them, and there is a chance of we going out, I say, look, I think you should know, in a couple of minutes I might well tell you that I love you, and tomorrow morning I might not want to see you for a little bit because I'm, because my mind goes to that. Because most people, I don't understand it. Again, most people are going to go, I love you, and then, right, we're in love, and that's it, and we see each other 6 times a week. And I can go, I love you, and then, I don't want to see you for a little bit. And that doesn't mean I don't love them, and people seem to want to really cling on to things, and that's the only way to. Once you start feeling trapped as well, you end up kind of.
So you couldn't commit to an exclusive relationship.
I couldn't commit to a week.
Dating
really.
One person, living to a week.
Yeah, I couldn't live with anyone ever.
Really?
No. Like I like when, occasionally, see someone out and they'll stay over, but there's never any chance of where you go one night. Oh, we've been seeing a lot of each other. Let's move in together. That's something you can be guaranteed.
Do you also get to the moment in the morning where you also want that person gone, no matter how great the night was?
No, that's it.
Right.
That's if it was a sexual thing. Yeah, and then of course you would. But I tend not to. I've stopped all that.
Is any of it, the way you do, you obviously need your space, but you also have a kind of quirky line in one of the poems where it's about you're not having the space to contemplate your loneliness.
Yeah.
How much is that kind of masturbatory? You know what I mean, to a degree?
Yeah.
Or do you really need, I won't know I'm lonely until I have time to sit down and contemplate the nature of the loneliness.
Yeah, it's very much so, because you're living on your own, and you kind of, sometimes there's moments where you're kind of longing, and there's other times you just want to be on your own, and the phone's ringing, and everything's a distraction, because I never answer my door either.
Right.
Because I don't want surprises in my life, Anyone who knows, coming up to me, if someone says 7 o'clock, I'll answer the door around 7 o'clock, hello, is that you? Come on in.
Right.
But, friends know it, and I don't understand them. People just ring on the door. And
do you wallow in the loneliness?
No.
Is it a natural state that you've learned to be content with?
Oh, very much I'm content with it, yeah.
Your loneliness?
Yeah, because people often say to you, and they're surprised, I don't see how they could even ask questions to say, do you ever get lonely? And you go, of course I do. As if you're going to go, oh no. I just, read a book or something, that's fine. But I'm very content with that, and I know now, I'm too selfish to be in a relationship to actually, spend a lot of time with someone else, because it's, with the creativity, it's 24 hours a day, where it's, I want to be on call.
Right. Women don't understand that either. I mean, if I found so many people say that about if you're committed to writing or something and you have to pull away or go for even 5 minutes to write something, it's like it becomes another force that they almost get jealous of.
Yeah, and I think, even though I know you don't mean that the way you said it, but it's not just women, it's like the partner.
Yeah, your partner, I mean, a partner in a relationship.
Of course. I know, and if you're in that situation where that's going to cause problems, you should never have been in that relationship, because also, I kind of see someone now, every so often, and she tends to ring me a lot for no reason.
All right.
I don't understand why. And you go, yeah, what? Oh, right.
Let's say you're a charmer on the phone, all right.
What did you do today? I don't care what you did today. I have to go. See.
Are you a latent homosexual?
Probably. I do have homoerotic dreams.
Do you?
Yeah.
About who? Don't tell me. Sting.
No, but actually, the weird thing was I had one about Morrissey the other day, and then I met him the next day.
Yeah.
And he was really charming.
It was charming.
No, he was really charming. I didn't mention it to him because
did you know?
Oh, you sound like such a poncer. I had a big wet dream about you last night. But,
well, what about that whole area? Does it attract you? Would you like to manifest something like a encounter with Morrissey?
No, because again, the physical act of showing another man doesn't appease me at all. And like the actual, the closeness of being with another man and cuddling and stuff is something very close to my heart.
Right.
I love that. But and it's really odd because it's another one, because with a woman, and that's what I want with them, is to be close and to cuddle with them. Okay. And then what happens is, you're there for now, and then you start thinking, well, hang on. Oh, we're getting aroused, and you end up shagging. With a man, it'd be like, I can't imagine where we're cuddling, and I go, no, turn around, come on. Well, hey, wheelbarrow. But I wouldn't discount it. I might well have, and I'm not saying that to be very charming and Brett and kind of being very elusive, because I've always, and I think I'm very much up for the, homosexual people, because I think they do get trodden on.
Right.
But I again, it must be so hard for them, because like any gay people I know, they're really lovely people, and then you have like the gay clubs and all that, and those people kind of annoy me so much, because they're all too camp in that sense of really playing up to it. You go, relax,
Sure. But
again, like, you don't know how much shit they've gone through, and it might be great to be able to express it with other people.
Yeah. But that's not an area you discount.
No, I certainly wouldn't.
Do you have any homosexual erotic dreams?
Not many. I wish I had more, actually, because my dreams are so trivial usually. That was quite a nice one.
Could you bring that in? Now, you bring that into the act. I mean, some of these areas are areas of taboo, which you would probably deal with the idea of tapping into that.
I've done that quite a lot, live-wise,
But isn't this part of it, you take something that you were saying in the church that maybe people can't deal with, and the only way to deal with it is to diffuse it with laughter or tilt it a certain angle, and then it becomes...
Yeah, because you don't ever want to preach, so your job is to entertain the people in that sense. But to me, entertainment's always been educational. On a night off, I don't go to see like Run For Me Trousers. I go to see a pincer play or something, and that's what I consider entertaining. But I feel it's my job to not be too flippant. And of course, everyone loves gags, and I really enjoyed writing that kind of lung gag.
With
the smoking, and that's just like a joke. And
are you self-conscious about things like, when you make the Nietzschean kind of comment in the book, and then you diffuse it and say that's for just the kind of people who'd be impressed by that kind of shit?
What bit was
Nietzsche.
that? Yeah,
proportions.
But
and hell is other people is Sartre. I mean,
I know. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, are you self-conscious about the fact that you ought not to be too learned? I mean,
but I'm not, though, because I'm dyslexic. I can't even pronounce the bloody word. My vocab is tremendously crap. I mumble so much. I'm inarticulate. There's so many words I don't understand. I'm not well read. And
we both had a problem with Oberon Wall. I mean, I had to listen to how he was saying it.
But I'm terrible at it. I just go, oh, you know that? You know that? Yeah.
Yeah, but you want to see Pinter, and you would read these things, and maybe you've even read Nietzsche there on the slide with nobody looking.
I haven't actually.
Have you not?
No. And I haven't read any Sartre either.
Have you not? Just picked up the line.
Oh, yeah, because I think it's such a brilliant line.
But it also is, to an extent, your philosophy.
Yeah, it is.
Isn't
a little bit, yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah, I like, again, because I don't like this black and white, like, here's my philosophy.
Okay, fair enough.
And also, I think, things change, and that's important as well. Because actually, I was talking to Bill Hicks in Australia, and it was really nice because he came to see the show and he really enjoyed it. And I'm a massive fan of his. I think he's just the best stand-up knocking about. I don't know if do you know what I mean?
No.
Brilliant. And he goes out and he's very honest on stage, and he says a lot of things. He does a lot of anti-baby stuff, actually. And he does a line which I think is a brilliant line, purely because it's like I would never say it on stage. He goes, you know, it takes a very special lady to go out with a comedian. No, he says, to go out with a comedian, it takes a very special lady, or a bunch of average ones. And I just think, what an honest, funny line. And how many other comedians are going to go out and say that? Because people in the audience are going, you, I hate you.
Yeah.
And he does stuff like this. And it was odd because we were playing pool afterwards, and you know, we were talking about, you know, he's all anti-matter in a sense, like me. And I said, yeah, but Bill, you know why we're going out and doing these things? And he was going, why? And I says, to be proved wrong.
Right.
And that's what I want. You know, I want to go out with these views, and I want them to go, you're wrong.
Sure.
And if they take me the other way, I'm gladly, you know, that's what I mean about that kind of syringe as well. If someone can.
Do you also then would be anti-political correctness? Like when I said I don't mean to be sexist, you said, oh, do be.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that also can be becoming an anaesthetic or a neutralising factor in terms of art, all told?
It's
film, poetry, song.
It's
literature.
a very odd one because, for a start, new man doesn't exist. There's no such thing. I think everyone's much more aware now. But the thing is, like, new man, there's no such thing as a new man who is perfect in every way. And what I try to always put across is that I have my ups and downs. I'm by no means perfect, and I can be as incorrect as anyone else, like, you know. And you know, it's just, you see the media trying to put this across and going, you know, you see people who are not movers or shakers, like, you know, they're just people who kind of sit there and kind of pick up on little things, and you'll hear it now, comments like even the chat show, oh, that's not really like, you know, people saying that, you're just gonna fuck off, like, you know. But at the same time, what the media are trying to do now is they're saying, oh, now there's a bunch of new people who are going against the grain and they don't believe in this political correctness. And I'm going, look, things aren't black and white.
Sure, it's not very. But what about the Dermot Morgan and that kind of stuff? I mean, obviously he has had no support from RTE. He's now going with proposals to the BBC.
Is he? Yeah.
Yeah. So I only read that last Sunday. So it would suggest that there's a very incredibly straight lace, like the anti-religious. I mean, how much of that do you think you'd get away with in Irish television?
Well, it's hard to know really, because, you know, I've been out of the country for so long now. I can't really, because I'm not reading the kind of commentary in the newspapers on a weekly basis. But hopefully things have changed. It did discuss me a bit with the abortion kind of referendum. I just found that very shocking. Right. You know, that the country's still, you know, it's just the whole point of using democracy to take our choice, you know. I thought that frightening.
But did you feel, when you go back into the Late Show a couple of months ago, do you feel restricted? Like before you go on, do you feel, well, now this is Ireland, this is Dublin, I can only say so much?
No.
You don't?
And I sometimes, I'm expecting any day now to get a massive backlash from the popular press over there. You know, not to put me down, but to pick up on some of the things I've been saying for years. Right. Because you know, when I did the stadium last year, and it was like the amount, and like this series actually might well do it, because in tomorrow night's show, you know, God's always on the phone to me, and he brings in a Christian brother to look after me this week, which is Brian Cox. Right. Who, you know, basically kicks down the door and goes, kiss the ring. and he's very much trying to shag everyone in sight. So, and like God brings up every week in this series, but, you know, I do expect to, but I thought from the last gigs they'd give me a lot of flack, but it hasn't happened yet.
Well, you see, the whole thing is, as you said even there in the pulpit, which sounds so weird, but as you said in the pulpit today, Sean, the Bishop Casey thing and all that has really took the wind out and kind of defused the moral superiority. I mean, it's really great, particularly for women. I mean, women are beginning to see how the father figure, the priest figure, the bishop figure, the pope figure.
It was one of the joys for me to play Galway last year and do all my Bishop Casey stuff, because there was a stone's throw, because there was a big tent and the big church was there. And just go out and do that stuff about, because I used to do stuff about, you know, you said, you know, people said, leave me alone, it was just heat of the moment. And like, I've never understood that. I don't anyone go, phew, it's hot, should we fuck you? Okay. and I said, how could it be heat of the moment? Like, you would have had about 15 robes on. He said, yeah, just one more layer. And I used to do a load of stuff about that. And it was great fun to do.
Right. So who then, if someone wants to, who do you have your preferences is in terms of comics? I mean, do you go back to someone like Lenny Bruce? Is he a god or? No,
I understand what Lenny was doing, and he was ahead of his time, but I think the first one for me was always Richard Pryor.
All right.
Because he was the first comic to go out and say, I'm Richard Pryor, this is what I do, rather than go, here's some gags. And I think now, Bill Hicks, I love, and there's an Italian clown, Leo Bassi.
Right.
And they're the two people I've been impressed with live. I'm really enjoying the Larry Sanders Show,
All right.
and I'm looking forward to ripping that off in a couple of years for my
Fifth.
no, for me, it's such a ridiculous. Like, people saying Sean Show was like the Gary Shanklin Show, because it's just, I don't see the connection unless it's just a complete blind one of they show the sets and we show the sets.
Oh yeah,
But
right.
I'm really enjoying the Larry Sanders Show. I think that's very innovative, and I think it's probably the best thing on telly at the moment.
These are artists to you.
Yeah. Oh, very
Without
much
having
so.
to put inverted commas around any of this. This is art to
No.
you. It's performing art. It's art.
Yeah.
Right?
Because that's what I do mean. I do think the comics are the good comics are the poets of the day.
Do you?
Very much so.
Right. Are you?
Well, I'm putting myself up to be shot down by saying that. I never, it's up to other people to say it for me.
Okay.
I know what I'm doing. I'm just a romantic realist.
By this stage, Sean Hughes and I had been told that our time was nearly up. But before we parted, I decided to get from him a quote for a brace of AIDS awareness articles I was writing at the time. Yes, this means we must go back to the subject of sex, and I wouldn't include this section had it not led to a telling quote Sean gave me about death, and a funny exchange we had after I phrased rather idiotically a question about condoms. But to start, I asked Sean, with the hot press youth demographic in mind, if he worried about AIDS.
This is
No,
going
I
an
don't
AIDS awareness
actually.
issue. You don't?
No.
It's not been a concern. I mean, you practice safe sex.
Yeah, I do.
That's
but
a hesitant answer, Sean.
I know, because sometimes, I
You
couldn't
get carried
say
away.
I've got a complete clean whistle, if you'll
Right.
pardon the pun. Obviously, no, I don't know why. It doesn't concern me ever.
No.
No. But at the same time, I haven't had a test, and I've no intention of.
No, why?
Because
I got a great interview with Holly Johnson, who was magnificent in the interviews.
Yeah.
The next issue of BBC near yours. He talks about why he didn't have it for so long and then how he responded with being diagnosed as HIV positive.
And why didn't he have it? Because he was too frightened.
Well, no, it's like a lot of us. He was saying, I've practiced safe sex. I've been with one man for 9 years. It couldn't happen to me. Classic kind of cop out. I can't deal with the truth.
Did you worry about it, yeah?
Not as I think I'm like a lot of people, not as much as maybe we all should. But I don't know if we all are as aware of it as
I really
is
regret
claimed.
shagging that green monkey now as well.
From Africa.
I didn't ask him where it was just a one night stand. We didn't barely chatted.
Oh, come on now, you've all your young fans reading this. What do you say to them? Let's be a little more responsible.
I know, I think, obviously, but that's what
Have
I
you
mean.
got a condom on you now?
Why are you thinking of that? I had one homoerotic brain jump. You jumped in
I
the
better
gun.
rephrase the question. Do you carry them around with you all the time?
Well, I'm hardly likely at lunchtime go, I might get a shag. No, I don't, certainly not.
Do you not? But this is what's recommended to a lot of young people do in their wallet and their purse, women, men. Well, always, just not on the off chance that that's practicing safe sex.
What? So if you see
Just
it,
have
come
it
a
in your
shag,
pocket.
allow me. But no, it's kind of
So you don't even carry condoms?
no, but it's that whole thing of it's like that's again with the whole sexual thing. If I have to use a condom, I'd rather not have sex really. Anyway.
Really?
Yeah. But yeah, of course use a condom, and of course, when you say it's an old one when you say, well, you've got a certain responsibility. But I don't think if I say, okay, anyone who likes me, I'm not letting you watch any of my shows unless you don't wear a condom. People are responsible for their own lives.
Sure.
And
But if a woman in your situation, if she asserts the responsibility,
of course, yeah. Because as you say, some people are really worried about AIDS.
Yeah.
And I tend to, because from the book, I do expect the old 10 ton to come down on my head at any second.
Right.
So
So what? You're courting? You courted to a degree or not?
well, not AIDS, certainly not,
Right.
because it's very painful, and I'm very much, I do a lot of work for Terence Higgins,
Right.
Alex's brother, nothing to do with the organisation.
Okay.
I hope so. But it is.
All right.
I've got enough. I think I'll probably and I see. It sounds like I'm just trying to be over dramatic, but I don't expect to live forever. Because I'm aware of the concept of immortality.
Very good. I'm happy to hear that.
But
Do you expect to die within 10 years?
I'd imagine so. Yeah.
Really, though?
Yeah.
But why? I mean, you've no serious ailments you're only going to tell me about now.
No, I haven't. None at all. In
Right.
fact, I've never had any illness. But it's that whole thing of things have happened too fast for me.
Really? Over the past
Where-
couple of years?
No, in general,
Right.
where I wanted to do things in my life, and I seem to have done them now. And it's kind of, I don't want to fade away. I'd rather, and not go out in a big blaze of glory. But, I think I'd be happy with another 10 years. That'll do me fine. Come back to me in 10 years and go, please don't kill me, Joe.
Yeah. Okay. 10 years of fame or 10 years of life?
Of life.
Yeah.
Because that'd be a great film, actually, where a guy, in an interview says, if I'm not dead in 10 years, I'm going to kill myself. And a fan picked it up in 10 years, somebody comes knocking on the door. Mr. Hughes, here's this article of the hot press. That'd be, a good film.
I'd feel great, wouldn't I?
And how eerie, again, was that, given Sean's death at way too young an age, to hear him say then that he'd be happy to live just another 10 years. But to end our interview, and having interviewed enough celebrities to know that fame can be fleeting, I asked Sean if he felt that one day the British public, as in the case of, say, Terry Wogan, might grow tired of him and tell him to, well, go to hell.
No, because I'm not actually courting like the fame thing. It's very much like where the people like me are kind of slightly off centre, not
right.
Their minds, but they they've actually I'm talking to them about their lives, and we're touching on certain things, and it's always that whole trick of never be number one. Just remain in the background for a bit. I'm happy
because you can't be top of.
It's very much so, because if you become flavour of the month as well, and people do get bored with you, Angus Deaton and Paul Merton and all them, they're so popular now, which means they have to spiral.
But do you not fear the same thing?
No, because I've got this brilliant thing in the sense of where half the population knows me and half of them doesn't, and it's great because it's the half that I actually want to know me who do.
Okay.
No, I think if I wanted to play the fame game, I could be a lot more famous. I don't do any of those game shows or, don't do any of the ads or any of those big publicity things. I'm not interested.
So what do you aspire then towards? I mean, is the film career, is that kind of
the next thought, really. That's what I aspire towards, is something, get a really good idea and then articulate it. Whether, it would be nice to do film, but film is very dull to make. And I don't know if I want to be wasting so much time.
Well, you had the experience.
Yeah, well, that was only a slight experience, but I just know, even from television, but, just doing film is so boring that I'd have to have such a brilliant script. But, just the next thought and maybe some peace of mind, really.
I dedicate this programme to the memory of Sean Hughes. May he rest in peace. Thank you for listening, and good night. Hi, Joe Jackson here again. I thank you for listening to this edition of the Joe Jackson Interviews podcast. And as I say, if you want to read the article I wrote out of that meeting with Sean Hughes, check joejacksoninterviewer.com.